Hi everyone, and welcome to the video. Today I thought I'd put this short video together. Purpose of it is to highlight ways that one might utilize the fixed info page and custom waypoints excuse me, to assist when flying difficult approach procedures such as a circle to land or a visual approach procedure. I'm using the A320 fly-by-wire A320 in the experimental version, but I believe the functionality that I'll show is also in the development version too. Unfortunately, as of now, as far as I know, the functions are not in the standard release version, so you need to be on at least the development version. Now, I know many of you will be fully aware of fixes and custom waypoints, etc., but there are many that may not or have not tried to apply them to things before. For others, I guess this acts as just a refresher, or you'll turn it off. I'm not planning to fly the approach today, but merely set up an arrival before takeoff. So for this demonstration, I'll be using the ILS approach into Chambéry runway 18, and then the circle to land visual procedure track to runway 36. So here's the chart that we'll be using for the visual procedure track into Chambéry, France. We'll initially fly the ILS down, or we would do, so I'm not flying today. Fly the ILS down without using the approach button, follow the glide slope down to a point 2 miles from the localizer CY. So to add a waypoint or a fixed point for this point A, we can enter CY as the localizer that we're calculating it from, slash 355, which is the reciprocal of the runway approach, and 2 miles. So we put that after the final fix on the approach, and select correct one, and it puts in a pilot point. It always puts PBD, I'm not sure what that stands for, as 01. So if we look on our ND, let's page down a bit, you can see it's put our point here, PD01, which is actually 2 miles from the threshold. That seems a bit close, actually. Does that seem close to you? We're on, oh no, we're on 20 miles, that's why. I thought it looked a bit close. Yeah, so we're 2 miles from the threshold. But from there, we want to put in another waypoint that is point B. Now that is on a bearing of 135 degrees from the point that we just put. So to do that, we put we can reference that now because it's stored. PBD01 slash, and the bearing is 135 or 2.6 miles. And again, we put that, we want it after PBD01, so we enter it in here. So if we now look at the chart, forget this loop, don't worry about that, we'll deal with that in a minute. It's put another point here, so this is where we head out to this point, at this point at which we need to turn parallel to the runway on a heading of 175 for 2.2 miles. So again, we can enter BBD02, which is the waypoint that we've just added here, and a bearing of 175 for 2.2 miles. And again, put that in after PBD02. So there's our waypoints there that we're following. Now at this point, we would probably be visual, because it's a visual procedure track to follow. So what we can do, just to make sure we've got the right track, we can go to we go back to flight plan. We click on the first left hand key of the flight plan, and because we're at Geneva on the ground, it's just showing the airport. But if we were up in the air, it could be any of these. It was usually the last waypoint that you've passed. So we click there and fix info, and we can now reference one of our stored waypoints that we've put in. Where's my thing gone? Oh, it's because it's on flight plan. This one was PBD01. So we put PBD01 in there, a reference fix, and we'll put a radial coming out of 135. So if we put 135 as a radial, okay, and we'll put another one in for PBD02, and from that point we want a radial of 175. Just to okay, so if we go back to flight plan and page down to where our points come, we should find that we've got a couple of tracks going out, which is the route we'll need to follow. Now the reason I put that in is just because this is not really exact. So it just again, it's an added way of giving us a track to follow, really. Now when we come to this turn from PBD03, we're on a visual track back to the airport. So that's why I say we need to ignore this, because the initial approach was for runway 28, so it's treating it as a missed approach effectively, I think, to bring us back around. But we need to have a reference for the runway as we turn. Now we have an area here in this radius which we should stay really within when we turn. We don't want to go past that, and that is a 3 DME distance arc from Charlie Yankee, which is here, the localizer. So to do that, we can go back to our to get back to the start of the thing, go to the fixed info page, and we'll put in CY as the localizer designator. Make sure we get the right one, 109.5, and put in a radius of 3 miles. Okay, if we look at the, I need to go back to the flight plan, it's annoying that. So we go back to the flight plan, back to the end. So you can see here we've now, from PBD03, which is roughly our point, we have to turn within that. Ignore the white one, that's a default waypoint as to where you are. It will always have a circle around where you are, I think. So we're able to turn at PBD03 round and back onto the airport. Now, as a reference for the runway, because although it's a visual approach procedure, in real life you'd have a co-pilot that's got his eyes on the runway through the window and can duck down as the plane turns. In Flight Simulator we don't really have that luxury, without fiddling about with camera heights, etc. as you're turning. You've got enough to do as it is to watch your speed, etc. So we'll put a radial coming out at 175 from the runway. So we'll put another radial in radial from the threshold. So go back to fixes again. Now I don't know, will it accept LFB? Not B. Sorry, LFLB. LFLB 18. Does it accept that or not? No, it does. So we'll put a radial in there of 175. Go back to the flight plan, page down, and so we have it's getting a bit messy, so I wouldn't want to do too much more. Okay, looking back at the chart, we'll put some altitudes in a minute for the waypoints we created, but looking back at the chart, this point D here is level with our last waypoint that we put in, this PBD03, and if you look here, you've already started your descent by point D. During the turn, we sort of maintain 1,880 feet, and then unfortunately we can't really identify point C, but it says intercept PAPI glide slope and descend with a 425 feet per nautical mile, so a 4-degree glide slope. So before we get to point D, we need to start descending, otherwise we're not going to make the threshold. So it'll be useful to put a point in, ideally point C, but we're not really we can't really judge exactly where that is. But point D looks as if it's sort of on a parallel to or a beam, if you like, the last waypoint we put in. So if we put a radial across from PBD03, then that gives us the point at which we got to aim for when we turn, or aim before that when we turn. So we should come along here and turn right on this 3-mile arc, and then join the start our descent probably just before we reach the intersection, if we put another radial across here. So if I go back into the fixed page, go back up to my top waypoint, we go into the fixed page and we put in a radial from, we've already got 4, haven't we? That's a nuisance. Okay, well let's as we filled up our 4 slots already, we'll go to the data page, and page 2, which is the other thing I was going to show you at the end of the video. We're going to store waypoints, and it will have the waypoints which we've already created. So if we go to new waypoint and we put in something, let's see, let's call it DESC for descend, and we want to do it from PBD03, I think it was, pretty sure it was. We got 1, 2, 3, PBD03. So we'll put in PBD03 slash, and we want to do 90 degrees from 175. So what's that? 9 zeros. What's that? 265, I think. Is it 265? 90 05. 9.7, yeah, 265. So 265 for 1 mile probably. We don't want to over. Let's see if it will do 1 mile. Hopefully that's enough. Well, let's put 1.5 just in case. So we've got 3 options here: latitude and longitude. Well, I can't do that. Place bearing distance is what we want to put it in. This one is rarely used. It allows you to put 2 lines, or plot a point rather, not 2 lines. Plot a waypoint that is 2 distances from 2 different existing waypoints that you have in the flight plan. So I'm not sure when one might use that, but the one we want is the one in the middle. So we put it in there and we click store. Right, so that's added our waypoint. So if we go back into our flight plan, that should put a waypoint in here. So after PBD03, oh, silly. How do I? Sorry, I've got to put the, what was it called? DESC, wasn't it? DESC. And I'll put it in there. Okay, so that's given us another waypoint here, which is the waypoint we need to aim for. It might change these lines, to be honest, once we get near. Don't forget we're sat at Geneva Airport, we're not en route. I think if we were en route, it would probably plot this route here and stop, turn around to there, and then we'd have visual. So these lines, I suspect, will no doubt disappear when one's flying the route and getting closer to Zurich. I could have flown the route and stopped somewhere nearer, which might have been probably better, but hopefully you'll get the right idea. So comparing it with the chart here, you can see we've got PBD01. So we come in on the ILS without using the APR but following the glide slope. When we get to PBD01, we break off on a heading of 135 degrees until we get to PBD02, and then 175 degrees to PBD03, and then at that point we turn and begin our descent before we get to this waypoint here, which is point D. And we should, by that time, obviously, as we turn out of the turn, have a visual on the runway and hopefully the pappies, so we follow the pappies down accordingly. So I hope that's been useful to you, and I'm not telling everybody to suck eggs, as the expression goes. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please click the like icon below, and feel free to subscribe to my channel by clicking subscribe and the bell. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.